Democrats and members of the media establishment have a habit of accusing Trump of doing things that they themselves have already done or actually do as well. The latest iteration is Rachel Maddow warning of a dystopian, over-the-top road to tyranny if Donald Trump potentially investigates his Democratic opponents. Because I couldn't imagine a circumstance where an administration would launch an investigation into a political candidate, could I? Oh, how about Crossfire Hurricane, when the Obama administration investigated Trump's campaign? What I find so funny about this is that it's not just the fact that they did the investigation into Trump's campaign in 2016, and now Rachel Maddow's freaking out about it, but that Donald Trump was accused of abuse of power and actually impeached because they argued that investigating a political rival or a potential political candidate was abuse of power. It was crossing the line, because even that was complete and total hypocrisy, because the Obama administration was party to the same exact thing. And now we see it in Donald Trump's pardoning and clemency of certain key individuals that were just like Rod Blagojevich, for instance. I got a lot to say about that. Or that Bill Barr wants an independent review of many of these prosecutions in the Russia investigation. And now they're all saying it's, again, abuse of power. They're calling for Barr to resign. They're saying Trump is on a cleaning, he's cleaning house. He's going on an abuse of power spree. He's becoming unstoppable. But listen, man, I'm not here to play politics. How am I supposed to condemn or criticize Donald Trump for doing what Democrats did first? It doesn't make sense. So while sure, maybe it's an abuse of power, how are you going to impeach somebody and criticize somebody? But first of all, before he's actually done anything, he's not investigating Democrats. But it was 2016 during the campaign. They were investigating Donald Trump. Was that an abuse of power? By their own standards, it is. Therefore, Maddow is warning of dystopian over-the-top road to tyranny stuff that's already happened from the Democrats. I'm sick and tired of this stupid nonsense, but let's read, because we're going to dive right into more stupid nonsense. Before we get started, make sure you head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is just share this video. And many of you, I've noticed, haven't subscribed. So make sure you subscribe, click the notification bell, and then, YouTube will finally start letting you know that I make more videos. So I appreciate it. Here's the story from Washington Examiner. Dystopian, over-the-top, road to tyranny stuff. I love saying that. Maddow warns Trump will investigate his Democratic challenger. Can we just go back in time 4 years and have her say the same thing that Obama warned that Obama was going to? No. Okay, I'm sorry. That doesn't count. That wasn't dystopian. Let's read. MSNBC host Rachel Maddow told her viewers that President Trump might use the Department of Justice to investigate his political rivals in an attempt at re-election. Oh, I want to laugh. It's so absurd. After encouraging her audience to look into the candidates on the issue, the MSNBC host warned her audience that the president might engage in Okay, I'm not going to read it for a fifth time. She said, quote, "At this point in the Trump presidency, at this point in the news, what do you really think the odds are that President Trump and Attorney General William Barr won't open up some kind of federal criminal investigation into whichever Democrat Trump ends up running against in the general election?" She asked her audience. "I don't know. What were the chances that Obama would launch an investigation into the opponent of one of his former senior members of cabinet members, Hillary Clinton?" Yeah, he did. So spare me. I don't care. Or, quote, "Or if they can't wait that long, if they're too impatient, what do you think the odds are that the president and the attorney general will do something in the primary, open up some kind of federal criminal investigation, or find some other way to use the federal law enforcement apparatus against whichever Democrat Trump least wants to run against in the general?" Maddow said that America supposedly learned our lesson following the Watergate scandal, which surrounded the Nixon presidency in the early 1970s. However, she asserted it's a plausible theory for Trump to target his political opponents and undermine his opponent in the 2020 election. I bring you codename Crossfire Hurricane, the secret origins of the Trump investigation, as reported by the New York Times, May 16th, 2018, which was launched in summer of 2016 before the election took place. So no, I don't want to hear it. You're just saying whatever you think your audience wants to hear because it's going to get you those sweet, juicy ratings to sell advertisements. I do not believe it for a second. And we also now know that a couple of the warrants were totally bunk. But I'm going to read from you the Crossfire Hurricane Wikipedia page and make some points. I will also add before reading this, why is Maddow saying Trump might launch the investigation? Well, look, I think it's ratings. I think she's digging for scraps to try and produce content, but it's also possible Trump really will launch an investigation into, say, the Bidens. The GOP is already investigating Hunter Biden. And if it turns out he actually did things that broke the law, she's preempting her audience with, see, I told you Trump was going to do it. He's coming for Biden, even though Joe Biden isn't the front runner, was never the front runner. And literally everyone knows it, except for the people who are pretending not. Okay, no, everyone does. But then you have these media establishment types and crony Democrat types that are pretending like they think Joe Biden was the front runner at some point. But I'll just add, among all of the progressives, the socialists, the far left, Bernie Sanders people, and the Trump people, everyone knew Biden was not really the front runner in this race. It made absolutely no sense, but for some reason, that's what everyone kept saying. But I'll draw some scrutiny on that. First, let me read about Crossfire Hurricane. And the Wikipedia page says, Trump and his allies repeatedly promoted conspiracy theories asserting that Crossfire Hurricane investigation was opened on false pretenses or for political purposes. A subsequent inquiry by the Justice Department Inspector General Michael E. Horowitz, who was appointed by Barack Obama, released in redacted form in December 2019, did not find political bias in the FBI investigation and determined that the investigation was properly predicated on a legal and factual basis. So if Donald Trump launches an investigation into any of the Democrats on a legal and factual basis, it's not abuse of power, right? In which case he need only probable cause. I mean, the Carter Page warrants two of them were no good. And as they say, there were 17 errors. Let's read. Attorney General Bill Barr and his designated investigator, John Durham, publicly rebuked the findings and stated their belief the evidence justified opening only a preliminary rather than a full investigation, and indicated they would continue to investigate. The Inspector General also determined that the FBI made 17 errors or omissions, some of them severe, in its FISA warrant applications in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court for surveillance of Trump aide Carter Page. Horowitz nevertheless attributed the warrant problems to gross incompetence and negligence rather than intentional malfeasance or political bias. And of course, from CNN, 2 of 4 FISA warrants against Carter Page declared invalid. So you know what? Horowitz is saying that it was gross incompetence and negligence that led to the investigation of the Trump campaign before the election. Because I guess you're saying a deliberate investigation would be abuse of power, right? Like digging into Joe Biden's past before he even announced apparently was an abuse of power. So let me ask you this. If you think Donald Trump is completely inept, if you think he's terrible at what he's doing, then I think you've granted him plausible deniability if he does launch an investigation and say, oops, gross incompetence and negligence on my part. There was no intent to abuse power. We're just dumb. Is that what your defense of Barack Obama's administration is? I don't care what the reason is. I'm not here to play politics. Obama did it. How could you now start screeching that Trump might do it when that guy literally already did? But of course, I want to get back to pointing out the discrepancy in media with Joe Biden and what Trump is really worried about, because I think it's important not to draw parallels. I want to show you that I think the point about Trump investigating Biden and impeachment was a lie anyway. In the Real Clear Politics average, we can see that Joe Biden tanked following the first primary and caucus. What I find strange is that tons of people, when polled, would claim they want Joe Biden only until the Iowa primary or the caucus, when no one voted for him. So maybe Iowa's an outlier. Maybe the polls are wrong. But I do think it's really weird that Biden tanked only after people didn't vote for him. Wouldn't it be true that before the primary, people didn't want to vote for him anyway, and that's why he lost? So maybe it's that after the primary happened, people said, I'm not going to vote for Biden because he's going to lose. And all they really want to do is defeat Trump. The important thing is, everyone knew that Joe Biden was a weak candidate. And even according to left-wing activists, the only one I didn't want her to pick, in secret recordings, Trump admits fear of Clinton picking Sanders as VP in 2016. That's important because they tried claiming that it was an abuse of power on Trump's part to investigate Joe Biden because he was trying to dig up dirt to beat him in 2020. But Joe Biden was never the front runner. Trump was never afraid of Biden. He was afraid of Bernie. And maybe saying he's afraid is not the right way to put it. He was concerned that Bernie would be a strong contender. So you want to talk about abuse of power? I don't see it. You haven't made your case. But let's move on, because now they're still claiming more abuses of power. And I think it's silly considering they do the same things. First, I do want to point out GOP duo moves ahead with Biden investigation. I bring this up because I want to highlight that what Maddow is doing is preempting her audience. Once they actually do, if they end up getting dirt on the Bidens, like in terms of actual crimes committed, she's going to say, I told you so. But here's where I really wanted to get to. That story was kind of just in the way. Fox News reporting, Barr taps network of prosecutors to review Russia-Ukraine cases. So now they're trying to claim that Bill Barr is interfering, that Donald Trump is interfering in the prosecutorial or judicial process. I think based on the abuse of power by the Democrat standards pertaining to Crossfire Hurricane, there's good reason for Bill Barr to do this review of all of those cases. It really does feel like we're in a soft civil war. Call the impeachment a coup, call it whatever you want. But you had Barack Obama spying on the Trump campaign. Okay, I'm saying that colloquially. They were investigating Trump's campaign in 2016, okay, however you want to call it. They claim it's an abuse of power to investigate a political rival. Well, Barack Obama wasn't running for re-election, but Hillary Clinton was, and she was part of Barack's administration. So by their standard, it seems like that was an abuse of power. If that's the case, doesn't it make sense that someone would come in and review the cases they've presented because maybe there's partisan bias? Well, they're still claiming that this is an abuse of power, which is hypocritical as far as I'm concerned. And now we have more than 2,000 former DOJ officials calling on Attorney General William Barr to resign. Last week, Barr told ABC News, Trump's tweets made doing his job impossible. I got to admit, I do love that part because Bill Barr seems like such a cool-headed guy. I'm not going to say that he's right or wrong, or I'm not going to play any partisan politics, but he's the opposite of Trump in a lot of ways. He does these interviews. He's very calm and pragmatic, and he says, here's what I'm doing, here's why I'm doing it. Trump, on the other hand, is loud, bombastic, tweeting all the time. So I do think it's really funny that Bill Barr is like going like this, going like, this tweeting is making it hard for me to do my job. I think he's probably right. But it doesn't mean he's corrupt, and it doesn't mean Trump is interfering. It means Bill Barr is reviewing partisan bias. And you've got, I'm going to put it this way, man. Let's wind back in time. If Rachel Maddow thinks investigating a political rival is dystopian, over-the-top tyranny stuff, if the Democrats themselves impeach Trump on the basis of abuse of power because investigating a political opponent is abuse, I think it's fair to say the fault lies with Democrats, and Bill Barr should be doing what he's doing because by their own standard, they engaged in dystopian, over-the-top tyranny stuff, as Rachel Maddow said. In which case, good. Someone better get in and start cleaning house. And Donald Trump's talking about it. So they're in no position to complain about what Trump is doing. We now see that GOP leaders carefully express their support for AG Barr. I have no problem saying from where I stand, I think Bill Barr needs to be investigating, or at least bringing in people to look at these past cases. I don't know if Roger Stone deserved 9 years for what he did. Tough call. There's a partisan divide where Trump supporters say he didn't. He deserves something. We'll see what happens. And the left is saying Trump's intervening to get his buddy off, which is so dumb because Trump could pardon Roger Stone if he wanted to. He doesn't have to ask Bill Barr to do anything. And asking them to reduce their sentence recommendation doesn't mean the courts would actually do it anyway. So calm down, please. But now we get to the best part. I'm from Chicago. I'm from Chicago, and Donald Trump pardoned Rod Blagojevich. Blagojevich, who was convicted, my understanding, because he tried selling Barack Obama's Senate seat and tried to shake down a hospital. This, in my opinion, was not a wise move. I don't know why he did it. Maybe Trump doesn't care about optics because he's going to do what he wants to do. But I'll tell you this. As much as I think Illinois has a severe corruption problem, the reality is Donald Trump, as the president, can pardon or commute or grant clemency to whoever he wants within the federal legal system. So I think it has to do, I don't think he can pardon people at the state level. I think it extends only to federal crimes. But CNN reports Trump just granted clemency to 11 people. Here's a look at each. Now, listen, I'm not a fan of Blagojevich. As someone from Chicago, none of us were happy to hear that he was trying to sell a Senate seat or whatever he did. Let me read this for you, because what we're getting at is not so much whether or not Trump should have done it. It's whether or not it's an abuse of power to do it. And they're claiming it is when it's not. CNN says Trump commuted the sentence of former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, a Democrat and former contestant on Celebrity Apprentice who served 8 years of a 14-year sentence for the pay-for-play charges. He was released from prison Tuesday. They say, quote, he served 8 years in jail, a long time. He seems like a very nice person. Don't know him, Trump said, calling his sentence ridiculous and suggesting the television appeals of Blagojevich's wife, Patty, helped cement his decision. Aides had worked to convince Trump against reducing Blagojevich's sentence, believing it would play poorly, and Republican members of Congress lobbied Trump to drop the idea. But inside the White House, Jared Kushner championed efforts to pardon or commute the former governor's sentence. On Tuesday, Trump linked Blagojevich's prosecution to a longtime foe, former FBI Director James Comey, a close friend of former U.S. Attorney in Illinois Patrick Fitzgerald, who led the prosecution against Blagojevich. It was a prosecution by the same people, Comey, Fitzpatrick, the same group, Trump said, misstating the Illinois U.S. Attorney's name. It wasn't Fitzgerald, right? Here's what I think. I don't know exactly why Donald Trump wants to pardon and grant, commute the sentence of Rod Blagojevich, but I think it looks bad. I don't know how this will play out in the general election, but I think most people aren't going to care. The media wants to make it a bigger deal than it is. But part of me thinks this may be Donald Trump kind of giving the middle finger to Comey. Look, it was the Obama administration that was investigating Donald Trump. And by Democrats, again, by their own standards, that was an abuse of power. So maybe Trump is saying, now that I'm in charge, now that impeachment is over and you've lost everything, I'm gonna let this guy go. One of your great victories, Comey, is over. Now, I don't know why he did it. I really, really don't. And I disagree with it. I think it was a bad move. I don't think Rod Blagojevich deserves to get out early. I don't know, though. 8 years is kind of a long time. And I'm very much so a criminal justice reform person. To be honest, I don't know about this guy, but I'd be really happy to see Donald Trump commute the sentences, grant clemency, or pardon tons of people. Maybe as many as Barack Obama did at the same point. Because even though Donald Trump commuted all of these people, I think he's still... At last time I checked, he had pardoned 6 less people than Obama did for the same time period. He may now be slightly above where Obama was in terms of pardoning people. But of course, the New York Times and the media can't help but try and claim that using the presidential powers is an abuse of power, which is just not true. Calm down. Hypocrites, man. Eric Lipton of the New York Times tweets, "A moment that live in history," a typo, I guess, "and deserves to be remembered. President Trump is now both the executive and judicial branch. Rod Blagojevich, Michael Milken, Bernard Kerik, and others. Excuse me, the president has the ability to pardon anybody. So how is he now becoming the judicial branch based on powers granted to him by the Constitution? This is the absurd nonsense we see from these people. It makes it impossible for me to take them seriously. For one, politically, when you look at the Democrats, what have they offered anybody? Nothing. Nancy Pelosi tears up Donald Trump's speech at the State of the Union, but then blames the media for why she did it, saying, we have all of these great accomplishments you won't talk about. I'm sorry, man. If you won't talk about them, then why should the media? You're hypocrites. Politically, you provide nothing. You complain about Trump all day and night. When Barack Obama engages in investigations of a political rival, it's no big deal. It's justified. When Trump says it's a partisan witch hunt or it's based on false pretenses, even in Wikipedia, they say it's a conspiracy theory. Why is it not a conspiracy theory that Donald Trump was trying to dig up dirt on Joe Biden? They've never, to win a presidential election, they've never proven the latter. We know Donald Trump was interested in investigating Burisma in Ukraine, but their claims have never been proven. They're conspiracy theories too. I'm sitting here looking for objective evidence. You've provided me with none. And now you have this guy freaking out that Donald Trump pardoned people, claiming a day will live in history. Are you kidding me? I have a huge list of everyone Barack Obama has pardoned. It's a huge list. Some of these people did really, really messed up things. And I'm going to scroll through them very quickly because some of them are so messed up that if I show you them, YouTube will probably delete this video. I'm not kidding. These are federal crimes. Some of them are really, really bad. And Barack Obama pardoned something like over 1,000 people within his 8 years. All right, that makes sense. Donald Trump's been in for 4 years, and I think he's actually pardoned less than Obama at this point. I'm not going to count through it, but the last time I checked, it was less. Did Obama become the executive branch and the judicial branch? My understanding is now you can actually go back in time and impeach Barack Obama, even though he's already out of office, for what he did in Crossfire Hurricane. Perhaps when the Republicans win back the House, because I think they probably will, but we'll see, they'll launch an impeachment inquiry into Biden and Barack Obama for Crossfire Hurricane. And they'll say, you were investigating a political rival. Of course it won't really happen, partly because Republicans just don't seem to be effective in that regard. One of the biggest complaints I've seen from Trump supporters is that although Bill Barr has the power to declassify documents, he's not done so, and he's arrested basically I think he's arrested basically nobody. And so they're angry that Bill Barr isn't getting the job done. I find it hilarious that while they're claiming Bill Barr is corrupt and doing Trump's dirty work, he won't even prosecute McCabe. He's not going after these people. They're claiming there's an abuse of power, and Bill Barr seems to be cool-headed and not really acting with an iron fist. It's an excuse. As I stated early on, they want to accuse Trump of doing what they have done. That way, when you come back and say, no, it's the Democrats who abused power, they say, oh, please, you're only saying that because you've been accused. Sorry, Rachel Maddow. Barack Obama, it was his administration. All right, they investigated a political rival. It is what it is. You can't deny it. And if you think Trump is bad, it's about time you cleaned up your own room, bucko. The New York Times is now running a story. Trump takes up call for Barr to clean house at Justice Department. With a series of retweets, President Trump kept up attacks on federal law enforcement agencies despite pleas from the Attorney General. I got to admit, I kind of laugh at poor Bill Barr. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. He seems pretty on the level as far as I can tell. And he was the Attorney General in the 90s. In 1991, from 91 to 93, he served as Attorney General. They didn't seem to have this many problems with him back then. There were some criticisms, but he seems to be a dude who's doing his job to kind of fix things, clean things up. And Donald Trump couldn't stop tweeting to help Mr. Barr, or Attorney General Barr. I don't want to say Mr. But Bill Barr clearly expressing frustration with the president. And I got to admit, I laugh because, I agree with Bill Barr. So many people do. Even Trump supporters get it. I love telling the story of riding. When I went down to do the interview with Glenn Beck, I'm riding in an Uber. And the driver, I asked him what he thought about politics. And he explained to me that he really liked Trump, but wished he didn't tweet so much. And I laugh at the thought because Trump's never going to stop. It's part of why a lot of people like him. But a lot of people are frustrated that you have this great economy under Trump. He's getting the job done, but he can't shut up to save his own campaigns. But I think he'll be fine. In the end, I think it's fair to say if Trump is going to clean house, good. There should be less power in the executive branch. I have said in the past, the light at the end of the tunnel, the open window, as it pertains to the investigations of Trump, is the curtailing of executive authority. If Donald Trump is now having prosecutors and other people, removed from these offices, good. The civil war between these people ultimately ends with less power for the federal government. Hey, I'm not complaining. But I do think it's absurd how they play to this double standard. They do all of these things themselves and then get mad when Donald Trump might do it. Let me clarify. I want to reiterate. Donald Trump has not yet launched any investigations, and Rachel Maddow is now complaining of the dystopian tyranny heading our way that Trump might do it when Barack Obama literally did it. Okay, I want to clarify that the Barack Obama administration, because I'm not going to claim that Obama directly ordered it. Fine. The point is, it was when he was in office, this went down. And even if Donald Trump didn't order it, if Bill Barr decided to investigate someone, they would claim Trump did. So you know what? I don't want to hear it. But let me wrap this up by throwing some shade towards the elites. Because I'll tell you one thing. A lot of Bernie supporters don't want to come to the defense of Donald Trump because they know they're going to be up against him in November should Bernie win the nomination. But I think it's a mistake. Donald Trump has no problem pointing out the DNC is cheating Bernie. Bernie should embrace it. Get the elite loonies out of there. Just get rid of them. You got no reason to defend Barack Obama. You've got no reason to defend Rachel Maddow. And especially when you see stories like this. Bravo, Washington Post, where democracy dies in darkness. It's time to give the elites a bigger say in choosing the president. No, it's not. Sorry, that's not how our system is supposed to work. So I think it's about time we actually gave them less say. You know what's going to happen at the DNC? Bernie is going to have a plurality. He's going to have the majority of the delegates, but it's going to be contested. And the elites will step in to give it to Bloomberg or Buttigieg or whatever. Maybe not Buttigieg. We'll see. The point is, people like Maddow, these people who defend the establishment, they have nothing but disdain for you, be it a Trump supporter or a Bernie supporter. So how about we get a legitimate battle where we have Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders debate the ideas? And I would absolutely respect that. I happen to disagree, for the most part, with Bernie Sanders on a lot of issues, and I question his integrity, same as I will for Donald Trump. So that puts me between a rock and a hard place. But I'd like to see an actual debate between people who are talking about America and working class individuals, people that I think actually don't have elite establishment cronyist ambitions. Yeah, believe it or not, a lot of people on the left would get mad at me for saying that, but I don't think Trump is in this to enrich himself. That's absurd. The dude's been rich his whole life. Trump's got his name in gold letters on buildings across the world. No, I think he ran for the office partly because of his ego, but he thinks he's the one who can fix all of these problems. And I genuinely believe he wants to. I'm not saying he's a good dude. I'm saying I think his motivation is that he thinks he's smarter than everybody else and he's going to do a better job. I think Bernie Sanders feels similarly, though Bernie is probably much more humble. And I'll throw some shade at Bernie's way. I don't know if he has a spine, but I'll tell you what. I don't care for what these elites want to claim. They want to call Trump a dystopian nightmare. Nah, sorry, you started it. You don't care about what the people want. You're just lying. You want to act like we were supposed to learn from Watergate, Rachel Maddow. Sorry, because you didn't say that back in 2016. You didn't say that in 2018 when we learned about Crossfire Hurricane. So I'll tell you what. If Bernie wins the nomination, I respect and would love to see him debate Donald Trump. We'll see how it goes. If he wins, he deserved to win. If he doesn't, he didn't deserve to win. But you know what does deserve to happen? If people in this country and the Democratic Party want Bernie Sanders, they deserve to get him. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. at youtube.com/TimCastNews. It is a different channel, and I will see you all there.